Fed Cup Final 2013. A travesty. These are one of the players who is not going to be playing for the Russian team, giving them actually no hope and no match against Italy, to the point where the Russian coach actually said, "We have no chance. We are just trying to get our young people some experience for the future." This is the final? Let me give you some background. We started off the year in February, first round. It was a great competition, one of the best first rounds in the history of team tennis. When you combine both the men and the women, the Davis Cup and Fed Cup were just unbelievable in February. Here were three of the four World Group first round matches were fantastic, as you can see. Actually, Italy, USA barely lost. They were up 2-1. The clay in Italy did them in. They got a little worn out from that. And Japan, Russia. Japan was also up 2-1 with Dottie Crum on deck against choker, usually the usual choke artist, Makarova, but this was the start of a total Phoenix Rising by Makarova. She actually blasted Crum, who looked like she was a little worn out, and then teamed with Vesnina in the doubles, and their experienced team knocked out Japan. So a great comeback by Russia. And then Slovak had a tough one and got by Serbia, who didn't have Ivanovic or Jankovic, so that was a big problem. Then in the semis in April, as you can see, Italy had a little bit of an easier time, but it looks easier than it was. At 2-1, they got rained out, had to go to Monday, and Safarova almost got a tiring Vinci. It went 3 sets, and Vinci pulled it out. Had Vinci lost that, they go to doubles, the fifth deciding rubber, and who knows what could have happened. But again, in Italy, this one in Palermo, too much. Italy and Russia were at home the whole year, so that had a lot to do with the fact that they're in the final, to be honest with you. The home crowds pushed them through, Italy with their choice of clay, etc. And then in Russia, they were not only down 2-1 this time, they were down 2-zip. Comeback from the grave. First ever comeback from the grave in a semifinal of a Fed Cup over the Slovak Republic. Again, Sobokova sort of petered out a bit, as she's done this year with her physical. And Makarova did it again. Hantakova didn't do anything wrong. Makarova played out of her mind and then teamed with Vesnina again for another great one. Makarova took a spill, was bleeding. I mean, she's turned into, from this, granolas type of character, into a Nadal suddenly. And she went on to do great at the U.S. Open as well. So Makarova is suddenly a clutch player this year. And she's probably the number one reason Russia got to the final, which we are having this weekend. Now, this goes back even further. We go back to dominant forces in this Fed Cup final. Yes, they have won, starting in, the Russians won their first title in 2004, won it again in 05, 07, 08, as you see. Runner-up in 11. Who won in between that? Italy, 06, and then 9 and 10. I mean, Italy and Russia totally have dominated until the Czechs won the last two. Now, I thought the Czechs were going to get back this year, and, if they were at home against Italy, they would have. But, having to go on the road to Italy, it was too much. Kvitova and Safarova weren't quite 100% a lot of this year. So, but still. So this was supposed to be an incredible matchup. Why a travesty? Well, that explains some of it. Players choosing to play this icing on the cake event in Sofia, which is, after the main, world championship last week in Istanbul. Now we have the second tier group, like the number 8 through 16. I mean, who wants to, who even cares about this? I mean, you're going to pick this over the Fed Cup final? Travesty. And then, this is a great list compiled by a member named Marlene over at the Tennis Forum for the women. And Sharapova's hurt, obviously. That's Karolinko says she's a bit injured. This is all the rankings there. 18 ranked Karolinko. We have to go down the top 11 women for Russia down to 129 Gavrilova, who didn't even play. She's mad at the Russian Tennis Federation, as you see there. Finally, Panova is the first ranked. The top 11 Russian women, we have to go outside the 130 rank to get the first one. I mean, this is ridiculous for a Fed Cup final. Now, some of it is because there's a lot of other tennis going on right now, which is a little ridiculous. But more than that, I think it's just being on the clay in Italy. They're in Sardinia, which is the island in the middle of the Mediterranean, which is kind of an interesting choice by Italy. But again, they're smart. They know what they're doing. Yes, it would be really tough. But you get Kuznetsova, Karolinko. Now, some of it's injuries. Kuznetsova says she's not feeling great either, but nobody is right now. She says she made other plans because she says the Tennis Federation told them they didn't even need her. What's that about? and she's going to have some minor surgery at the end of the year. I mean, this is typical of too much tennis, thing, but especially for the women. Makarova has a hand injury, actually. I think it's I forget which one. She has an injury. She can only play doubles, and that's the issue there. Because I know Makarova would have showed up. And Vesnina, I just can't believe she didn't give it a shot. I mean, she's playing Sofia. Pavlyuchenkova is playing Sofia. This is Sofia, Bulgaria. Like I said, the 8 through 16. I call it the icing on the cake event for the women that couldn't make the top and play in Istanbul the week before. Petrova, she said that RTF said they don't even want her to play Fed Cup. What is that about? Dushevina, plays Asia. She's playing in Asia some challenger that they're using now, and there's Asia challengers. Puchkova. Well, we're getting down here now. Brachikova said she's leaving, going to Portugal. Gavrilova's mad at the RTF. So, so what we have is Panova, Klibanova, which, she used to be great, but she's coming back from the cancer. Radinova is going to Australia, but that's been a long time coming. Kromacheva, who's very young, very, very talented, but very young, and Gasparin, or whatever you say. I mean, this is just a journeywoman, I'll be honest. So this is incredible. I mean, this is just absolutely incredible. Now, I don't know what, obviously this is, nobody really cares about this. This is very unfortunate. Last year, let's take a look. I just, popped this up real quick. We had an incredible year. It was a celebration of, 50 years of Fed Cup, 50th anniversary. I'll put that down. You can go below in the description in this YouTube video, and I'll have a link for that. I did a nice article on that last year. We had an incredible Czechs against Serbia. The score doesn't look that great, but it was an incredible, incredible final. Safarova came up big, kind of like Makarova has this year for Russia. So yeah, it was just incredible. And then to have this happen, really unbelievable. So anyway, interesting choice by Italy, but we're not going to really get the effects of the conditions. It doesn't matter. I mean, they'll make the clay slower. They're using the U.S. Open ball, which will, may be a little heavy with all the water around. It will be but actually they're in the south coast of Sardinia. Sardinia has a lot of mountains. You can get kind of dry air coming through. It's going to be interesting. It may not be quite as slow as they wanted, but it's not going to matter. I mean, I don't think it's going to matter. If Russia wins, it will be the biggest upset in the history of sport, of mankind. So there you go, guys. I will wrap this up, though, just to say who won on Sunday.